The wagon came empty, except for her. And the dead don't usually knock. Nevada, 1877 inches. The gunshot split the desert air before Jake Turner saw the riders. He yanked the reins, his mare skidding to a halt on the canyon trail. 3 men on horseback burst from behind the red rocks, kicking up dust clouds that swallowed the afternoon sun. Jake's hand dropped to his revolver, but he stopped when he saw what they were chasing. A girl ran between the boulders, her dress torn and dirty, bare feet bleeding against the sharp stones. She couldn't be more than 16. Her dark hair whipped behind her as she stumbled, caught herself and kept running. The riders whooped and fired warning shots over her head. Jake spurred his horse forward, cutting between the girl and her pursuers. The lead rider pulled up short, his scarred face twisted in anger. "Move aside, stranger. This ain't your concern." "Girl looks scared," Jake said, keeping his voice steady. "What's she running from?" "She belongs to us, bought and paid for." "Now step aside or join her." The girl crashed into Jake's horse, grabbing his stirrup. Her eyes were wide with terror, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Blood streaked down her arms where thorns had torn her skin. "Please," she whispered, loud enough only for Jake to hear. "Don't let them take me again." Jake looked down at her bruised face, at the rope burns on her wrists, at the desperate hope flickering in her eyes. Then he looked back at the 3 riders. They spread out, hands near their guns. The scarred man smiled, showing yellow teeth. "Your choice, friend. But choose fast." Jake kicked his boot free from the stirrup. "Get on!" The girl didn't hesitate. She scrambled up behind him, her arms locking around his waist. Jake felt her shaking against his back. "You just made the worst mistake of your life," the scarred man said. His hand moved towards his gun. Jake drew faster. The shot echoed through the canyon. The scarred man's hat flew off his head, and he froze. Jake's revolver didn't waver. "Next one goes through your skull," Jake said. "Your choice." For a moment, nobody moved. Then the scarred man slowly raised his hands. The other 2 riders did the same. "This ain't over," the scarred man said. "We'll find you. Both of you." "Maybe," Jake said. "But not today." He turned his horse and rode up the canyon trail, the girl clinging to his back. Behind them, the 3 riders didn't follow. Not yet. They rode hard for an hour before Jake slowed the mare to a walk. The canyon had given way to scrubland dotted with mesquite and cactus. The sun was dropping toward the horizon, painting the sky orange and purple. Jake could feel the girl's grip loosening as exhaustion took over. "There's a town ahead," he said. "We'll be safe there." She didn't answer. Jake twisted in the saddle to look back. Her eyes were closed, her head resting against his shoulder. She had passed out. Jake urged the mare into a gentle trot. Behind them, dust rose in the distance. The riders were coming. 20 buildings lined a single dirt street, most of them showing more gaps than walls. Jake rode straight to the sheriff's office, a squat adobe building with bars on the windows. Inside, Sheriff Tom Brady sat with his feet on the desk, reading a week-old newspaper. He was a heavy man with a gray beard and suspicious eyes. He looked up when Jake carried the girl through the door. "What's this about?" "3 men chasing her. They'll be here soon." Brady set down his newspaper. "Who's chasing her?" "Didn't ask their names, but they said she belonged to them." The girl stirred in Jake's arms, her eyes fluttering open. When she saw the sheriff, she tried to pull away, but Jake held her steady. "Easy," he said. "You're safe here." "No," she whispered. "No lawmen." "Please." Brady stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "What's your name, girl?" She buried her face against Jake's chest and wouldn't answer. "Her name doesn't matter," Jake said. "What matters is those men said they bought her. You know what that means." Brady's expression darkened. "Set her down. I'll get the doctor." Jake lowered the girl onto a bench against the wall. She curled up, making herself as small as possible. Her eyes darted between Jake and the sheriff like a trapped animal. "Stay with her," Brady said. "I'll be right back." The moment the door closed, the girl grabbed Jake's arm. Her fingers dug into his skin with surprising strength. "You have to go," she said. "They'll kill you. They'll kill everyone here." "Who are they?" "The Garrett brothers. They run girls across the border. I was one of 12. The others are already sold." Jake's jaw tightened. He'd heard of the Garrett brothers. Everyone in the territory had. They dealt in stolen horses, smuggled guns, and human cargo. The law couldn't touch them because half the lawmen were on their payroll. "How'd you get away?" "Jumped from the wagon during a storm. Been running for 2 days. Why didn't you go to the law?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. The law is how they caught me the first time. Deputy in Copper Falls sold me for $50. Jake understood now why she'd been terrified of the sheriff. He looked toward the door, then back at her. You trust me? She met his eyes and slowly nodded. Then stay quiet and follow my lead. The door opened. Sheriff Brady entered with an old man carrying a medical bag. The doctor knelt beside the girl and began examining her injuries. Brady pulled Jake aside. Those 3 riders just hit the edge of town, he said quietly. They're asking about you and the girl. You going to hand us over? Depends. You kill any of them? Not yet. Brady studied Jake's face for a long moment. I know who they work for. The Garrett brothers don't take kindly to people interfering with their business. So what are you saying? I'm saying you better leave town before sunset. Take the girl with you. Head north toward Silver Ridge. There's a mission there, run by a priest named Father Miguel. He helps people who need to disappear. Why help us? Brady's expression hardened. Because the Garrett brothers killed my daughter 3 years ago. She tried to run too. They made an example of her. The old doctor stood up, wiping blood from his hands. She'll live, but she needs rest. Those feet won't carry her far. Jake looked at the girl. She stared back at him with those desperate, hopeful eyes. How far to Silver Ridge? He asked Brady. 2 days hard riding. But you can't take her on horseback. She's too weak. You'll need a wagon. Where am I going to get a wagon? Brady walked to the window and looked out at the street. There's one behind the stable. Owner died last week. Nobody's claimed it yet. He turned back to Jake. Consider it borrowed. And when the Garrett brothers come asking questions, I'll tell them you rode east toward the mountains. That'll buy you maybe 6 hours. The girl stood up, wincing as her wounded feet touched the floor. Why are you doing this? Brady's eyes were hard and sad at the same time. Because someone should have helped my daughter. Now go, before I change my mind. Jake helped the girl out the back door while the doctor created a diversion at the front. They slipped through alleys between buildings, staying low and quiet. The stable sat at the north end of town, a sagging structure that smelled of hay and horse manure. The wagon was there, just as Brady had said. It was old but solid, with a canvas cover and space for supplies. Jake hitched his mare to it while the girl climbed into the back and collapsed among the empty feed sacks. We need food and water, Jake said. Stay hidden. I'll be back in 10 minutes. He crossed the street to the general store, keeping his hat low over his eyes. Inside, the owner's wife was sweeping the floor. She looked up with a friendly smile that died when she saw his face. You're the one they're looking for. I need supplies. I can pay. She set down the broom. How much time do I have? Not much. She moved fast, pulling items from shelves and shoving them into a canvas bag. Dried meat, hardtack, canteens, matches, a blanket. She didn't ask questions or try to negotiate the price. When she handed him the bag, her eyes were fierce. My sister disappeared 2 years ago, same age as that girl. If you get her to safety, tell her some of us are still fighting. Jake paid her double what the supplies cost and hurried back to the wagon. The girl was sitting up now, watching the street through a gap in the canvas. Her face was pale but alert. They're at the saloon, she said. All 3 of them. Jake climbed onto the wagon seat and took up the reins. Time to go. They rolled out of town, heading north, the setting sun at their backs. Jake kept the pace steady but not rushed. A racing wagon would draw attention. Behind them, Red Creek faded into the dust. What's your name? The girl asked from behind him. Jake Turner. I'm Lily Grant. Where are you from, Lily? Kansas. My parents died in a fire. I tried to make it on my own, but there weren't many options for a girl with no family. A man offered me work as a housemaid in El Paso. Turned out he was a recruiter for the Garrett brothers. How many brothers? 3. Cole, Martin, and Samuel. Cole's the worst. He's the one you shot at in the canyon. Jake glanced back at her. The one with the scars? Yes. He likes to hurt people, especially girls who try to run. They rode in silence for a while. The desert stretched out around them, endless and empty. Stars began appearing in the darkening sky. Why did you help me? Lily asked suddenly. Jake thought about it.
He could have ridden past, could have minded his own business.
But when she'd looked up at him with those terrified eyes and whispered those words, something inside him had shifted. My sister was about your age when she died, he said. Cholera took her. Nothing I could do to stop it. But you, I could help. What was her name? Emma. She was lucky to have you. Not lucky enough. They didn't speak again for hours. Jake pushed the mare hard, knowing every minute counted. Cole Garrett wasn't the type to give up easily, and once he realized they'd gone north instead of east, he'd come fast. Around midnight, Jake pulled off the trail into a cluster of rocks. We'll rest here for a few hours. Can't push the horse any harder without killing her. Lily climbed down from the wagon, moving slowly. Jake helped her sit near a flat boulder, then started gathering dried brush for a fire. No fire, she said. They'll see it. It's cold and you need warmth. I need to live more than I need to be warm. Jake stopped gathering brush. She was right. He sat down beside her instead, and she surprised him by leaning against his shoulder. Her body was still shaking, but not from cold. From fear and exhaustion and the memories of whatever the Garrett brothers had done to her. Try to sleep, he said. I'll keep watch. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see them. See what? The wagon, the cage they kept us in. The other girl's crying. The man in El Paso who counted money while they loaded us like cattle. Jake felt anger building in his chest. The mission in Silver Ridge, they'll help you start over. New name, new life. What about you? What about me? You're coming with me, aren't you? To the mission? Jake hadn't thought that far ahead. His plan ended at getting her to safety. After that, he'd figured he'd head west to California, like he'd been planning before this all started. I'll make sure you get there, he said. That's not what I asked. Before Jake could answer, the mare nickered nervously. He was on his feet instantly, hand on his gun. In the distance, barely visible against the starlit desert, dust rose from the trail. They found us, Lily whispered. Jake made a decision. Take the wagon. Follow the trail north until you reach a creek. Cross it and head northwest toward those hills. The mission is a day beyond them. Ask for Father Miguel. What are you going to do? Buy you time. He started unhitching the mare from the wagon. Lily grabbed his arm. No, we go together or not at all. You can't fight them? Neither can you, not 3 against 1. I don't have to fight them. I just have to slow them down. He pressed his revolver into her hand. You know how to use this? She nodded. If anyone catches up to you before you reach the mission, you shoot first and don't stop shooting. Understand? Jake, please. He climbed onto the mare. Go now, while you still can. And Lily, if I don't make it, tell Father Miguel what happened. Tell him about the Garrett brothers and what they're doing. Someone needs to know. Before she could protest again, Jake spurred the mare toward the approaching riders. Behind him, he heard the wagon creak as Lily got it moving. He didn't look back. The riders saw him coming. 3 dark shapes against the night sky, spreading out on a line. Jake recognized Cole Garrett in the center, his scarred face visible even in the starlight. Thought you might run forever, Cole shouted. Where's the girl? Gone. We'll find her. Not if you're dead. Cole laughed. You planning to kill all 3 of us? If I have to. The riders moved closer. Jake could see their hands hovering near their guns. This was it. The moment when everything would be decided by speed and luck. Last chance, Cole said. Tell us where she is, and we'll let you live. Jake's answer was to draw his gun. The desert erupted in gunfire. Jake's first shot took the rider on the left, the man tumbling from his saddle before he could clear his holster. The second shot grazed Cole's shoulder, spinning him sideways but not dropping him. The third rider got his gun up and fired. The bullet whipped past Jake's ear so close he felt the heat. Jake threw himself from the mare, hitting the ground and rolling behind a rock. Bullets chipped stone around him, filling the air with dust and fragments. He fired back blindly, trying to keep the riders pinned down. Cole was shouting orders. Circle around. Pin him down. Martin watched the right flank. Jake counted his remaining bullets. 3. Maybe 4. Not enough. He'd bought Lily maybe 20 minutes. It would have to be enough. He waited for a lull in the shooting, then broke from cover, running low toward a bigger cluster of rocks 30 yards away. Gunfire chased him, kicking up dirt at his heels. He dove behind the rocks and came up shooting. The third rider screamed and clutched his leg. 2 down, Jake muttered. But Cole was still coming, and he'd moved to higher ground. Jake was pinned. He couldn't advance, couldn't retreat. All he could do was wait and hope Lily had gotten far enough away. You're done, Cole shouted. Come out and I'll make it quick. Jake checked his ammunition. 2 bullets left. He looked at the sky, at the stars Emma used to name for him when they were kids. Then he stood up. Cole fired. The bullet hit Jake in the shoulder, spinning him around. He went down hard, his gun flying from his hand. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, like someone had pressed a hot iron into his flesh. Cole walked over, gun pointed at Jake's head. Blood ran down his own wounded shoulder, but he was smiling. "Should have minded your own business," Cole said. Jake looked up at him, trying to focus through the pain. "She's gone. You'll never find her. We'll see about that." Cole cocked his gun. "But you won't be around to care." A gunshot rang out. But it wasn't Cole's gun. Cole staggered, a red stain spreading across his chest. He turned, confused, and Jake saw Lily standing 20 feet away, the revolver smoking in her hands. Cole tried to raise his gun, but his strength was leaving him. He fired once, the bullet going wide, then collapsed face first into the dirt. Lily ran to Jake, dropping beside him. "You told me to go. You should have listened. I'm a terrible listener." She tore a strip from her dress and pressed it against his wounded shoulder. Jake hissed in pain but didn't pull away. "The other rider?" he asked. "Rode off. Probably going for help." "Then we need to move. You're shot. I've been shot before. Help me up." Lily got him to his feet, supporting his weight as they stumbled toward the wagon. The mare followed, still spooked but unhurt. It took them 10 minutes to get Jake into the back of the wagon and another 5 to calm the horse enough to continue. Lily took the reins, her hands shaking but steady enough to guide the wagon north. Behind them, Cole Garrett lay dead in the desert dust, and somewhere ahead lay a mission where people like her could disappear. Dawn broke over the desert 2 days later. Lily had driven through the night, stopping only when the mare absolutely needed rest. Jake had spent most of the journey drifting in and out of consciousness, fever burning through him as infection set into his wound. She'd found the creek Jake mentioned, crossed it, and followed his directions toward the hills. Now those hills rose ahead of them, and somewhere in their shadows was supposed to be a mission. "Jake," she said, glancing back. "Jake, wake up!" He stirred, his face pale and covered in sweat. "How far?" "I don't know. I think we're close. Keep going. Don't stop until you find it. You need a doctor. I need you to be safe first." They crested a rise, and Lily's breath caught. Below them, nestled in a small valley, stood a white adobe mission with a wooden cross on its roof. Smoke rose from a chimney, and she could see figures moving in the courtyard. "I see it," she said. "We made it." Jake managed a weak smile. "Told you." Lily urged the wagon down the slope toward the mission. A man in priest's robes came out to meet them, followed by 2 women in simple dresses.
They helped Jake from the wagon with practiced efficiency, carrying him into the mission building.
"Are you Father Miguel?" Lily asked the priest. "I am, and you must be in terrible trouble to come so far. The Garrett brothers." Father Miguel's expression hardened. "Come inside. You're safe now." The mission was cool and quiet inside, with whitewashed walls and simple wooden furniture. They laid Jake on a bed in a small room, and one of the women began cleaning his wound. She was older, with gentle hands and knowing eyes. "He'll live," she said after examining the injury. "The bullet went through clean. No permanent damage if we keep the infection down." Lily felt relief wash over her so strongly she had to sit down. For 2 days she'd been terrified Jake would die because of her. Father Miguel brought her water and bread. "Tell me what happened." She told him everything. The wagon, the escape, Jake's intervention, the gunfight, Cole's death. The priest listened without interrupting, his face growing graver with each detail. "Cole Garrett is dead?" he asked when she finished. "Yes." "Then his brothers will come." "Martin Samuel won't rest until they have revenge. I know. And this man, Jake, he killed their brother to save you?" "He did more than that. He gave me hope." Father Miguel studied her face. "You care for him?" It wasn't a question, but Lily answered anyway. "He's the first person who's treated me like I matter in a long time. Then we'll make sure he recovers." The priest stood. "You'll both stay here as long as you need. We have ways of helping people start new lives." "I want to help the others," Lily said suddenly. "The other girls the Garrett brothers have. Can we free them? That's a dangerous path. So is doing nothing." Father Miguel smiled, but it was a sad smile. "You remind me of someone I knew once. She also wanted to fight back."
"It got her killed, but she tried, didn't she?"
"That's what matters." The priest was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Rest first. Here. Then we'll talk about what comes next." Lily stayed by Jake's bed that day and through the night, changing his bandages and keeping him cool when the fever spiked. He woke occasionally, muttering things she couldn't understand, but mostly he slept. On the second morning at the mission, Jake opened his eyes and saw her sitting in a chair beside his bed, her head tilted back against the wall, asleep. Morning light streamed through a small window, catching in her dark hair. He watched her for a moment, this girl he'd risked everything to save. She looked different now. Still young, still scarred by what she'd been through, but there was something else there too. Strength, maybe. Or determination. "You should be resting," he said quietly. Lily's eyes snapped open. "You're awake? Seems like it." She leaned forward, checking his forehead. "The fever broke last night. Sister Maria says you'll make a full recovery." "How long was I out?" 2 days since we got here. 4 days total since you got shot." Jake tried to sit up, but winced at the pain. "The Garrett brothers?" "No sign of them. Father Miguel says we're safe here. For now." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Lily spoke, her voice quiet. "Thank you for everything. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. You could have died." "Couldn't do that." "Why not?" Jake looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the question in her eyes. It was the same question she'd asked in the desert. "Why did you help me?" "Because some things are worth risking everything for," he said finally. "And you were one of them." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. Instead, she reached out and took his hand.
Her grip was strong despite her small size.
"Father Miguel says they can help me start over. New name, new papers, maybe work in one of the settlements up north." "That's good. I told him I want to stay here instead. Help other girls who end up like me." Jake squeezed her hand. "That's dangerous work. So is doing nothing." He smiled. "You're stubborn. I learned from the best." Over the next few days, Jake's strength returned. He walked the mission grounds with Lily, learning about the place that would become her new home. Father Miguel explained their operation, how they helped people escape bad situations, gave them new identities, and sent them to safe locations. "We've saved 32 people this year," the priest said, "including 12 women from situations like Lily's, but there are hundreds more out there we can't reach." "The Garrett brothers have that much reach?" Jake asked. "It's not just the Garretts. They're part of a bigger network. Criminals, corrupt lawmen, businessmen looking for cheap labor. They all benefit from keeping people trapped. Someone should stop them. Many have tried. Most ended up dead." Jake looked at Lily, who was helping Sister Maria hang laundry in the courtyard. She moved carefully, still healing from her ordeal, but there was purpose in every motion. "What about the law?" Jake asked. "Real law, not the corrupt ones on the Garrett payroll. There are some good lawmen out there. Marshal Daniels in Santa Fe has been trying to build a case against the Garretts for years, but without witnesses willing to testify, he has nothing. Would Lily's testimony be enough, if she was willing to risk it? But testifying would mean exposing herself, and the Gratz would know exactly where to find her." Jake understood the dilemma. Safety meant silence, but silence meant the Garretts kept operating. That evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Jake found Lily sitting on a low wall, looking out at the desert. He sat beside her. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said. "The way the light turns everything gold." "It is. I used to hate the desert. After what happened, I thought I'd always associate it with fear and pain. But now I see it differently." "How so?" "It's empty, but it's also honest. Nothing hidden, nothing pretending to be something it's not. I appreciate that after so many lies." Jake nodded. They watched the sunset in comfortable silence until Lily spoke again. "Father Miguel told me about Marshal Daniels. I figured he might. He also told me you've been asking questions about the Garrett network, about their routes and operations." Jake didn't deny it. "Someone has to stop them. It doesn't have to be you. Maybe not. But I've already started this fight. Might as well finish it." Lily turned to look at him. "You're going after them, aren't you?" "Martin and Samuel. They killed Brady's daughter. They're hunting you. They'll keep doing this until someone stops them. You could get killed. I could, but what's the alternative? Hide here and hope they never find us?"
"That's not living, Lily. That's just waiting to die."
She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "If you're going, I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. You can't stop me. Lily, this isn't your fight anymore. You're safe here. You can start over. I'll never be safe as long as they're out there. None of us will. Besides, you need me. Why would I need you?" Because I know things you don't. I know where they keep the girls. I know their schedules, their routes, their weaknesses. I was trapped in their operation for 3 weeks. I learned everything I could in case I got a chance to escape. Jake studied her face in the fading light. She meant every word. This girl who'd barely survived, who should have been broken by what she'd endured, was ready to walk back into danger. You understand what you're suggesting? We'd be going up against at least a dozen armed men. Maybe more. I understand. And you're willing to risk everything, including your new life here, for a fight we might not win. I'm willing to risk everything for a fight that matters. Jake smiled despite himself. You're either very brave or very foolish. Can I be both? They spent the next 2 weeks planning. Father Miguel didn't approve, but didn't try to stop them either. He provided maps, information from other refugees who'd escaped the Garrett network, and a letter of introduction to Marshal Daniels in Santa Fe. The Marshal has been looking for an opening against the Garretts, the priest explained, but he needs probable cause to move against them. If you can provide evidence of their operation, he'll have the authority to raid their compound. Where is this compound? Jake asked. Abandoned ranch 40 miles south of here. They call it the Canyon House. It's where they hold the girls before moving them to buyers. How many guards? At least 10, maybe 15. And that's not counting the Garrett brothers themselves. Jake studied the map Father Miguel had drawn. The compound sat in a narrow canyon with only one way in and out. Defensible, but also a trap if things went wrong. We'll need help, he said. I know some men, Father Miguel said slowly. Former criminals who've turned their lives around. They owe me favors, and they have particular skills that might be useful. How many? 4, maybe 5? Against 15? Better than 2 against 15? He had a point. The men arrived over the next few days. First came Carlos Mendoza, a former outlaw who'd spent 5 years robbing stagecoaches before finding religion at the mission. He was short and muscular, with quick hands and quicker eyes. Next came the Johnson twins, Daniel and David, who'd worked as enforcers for a mining company before their conscience caught up with them. They were tall and identical, with matching scars on their left cheeks. Finally came an older man named Henry Stone, who'd been a bounty hunter before getting shot in the leg and deciding he was done with violence. He walked with a limp, but still carried himself like a man who knew how to handle trouble. This is suicide, Henry said bluntly, after Father Miguel explained the plan. 5 against 15, assaulting a fortified position. We'll all be dead before noon. Probably, Jake agreed. But those girls inside won't be. Henry stared at him, then at Lily. That's what this is about? The girl? It's about doing what's right. What's right gets people killed. So does doing nothing. Henry shook his head but didn't leave. None of them did. They spent the next 3 days preparing, gathering weapons and supplies, studying the maps, and planning their approach. Lily trained with them, practicing with the revolver until she could hit targets consistently. The men didn't coddle her or treat her like a burden. They taught her to shoot, to move quietly, to watch for threats. She absorbed it all like a sponge. On the morning they were set to leave, Father Miguel blessed them in the mission chapel. It was a simple ceremony, just words and prayers, but Jake felt the weight of it. May God protect you, the priest said. And if he doesn't, may you protect each other. They rode out at dawn, 6 riders heading south toward the Canyon House. Jake and Lily were in the lead, followed by Carlos and the Johnson twins, with Henry bringing up the rear. They moved fast but not recklessly, saving the horses' strength for what was coming. By mid-afternoon, they could see the canyon rising ahead of them, a slash in the desert where the earth had cracked open long ago. They left the horses a mile out and approached on foot, spreading out to scout the area. The compound was exactly where Father Miguel said it would be. A cluster of buildings at the canyon floor, surrounded by a wooden fence with guard towers at the corners. Smoke rose from several chimneys, and Jake could see men moving between buildings. 15 guards, Carlos whispered, lowering his spyglass. Maybe more inside. Any sign of the Garrett brothers? Not yet. But that large building in the center, that's probably where they'd be. Jake studied the layout. The fence was sturdy, but not impossible to breach. The guard towers gave the defenders an advantage, but they were far apart. If they could take out the guards quietly, they might be able to get inside before the alarm was raised. What about the girls? Lily asked. Where are they keeping them? See that long building on the west side? Bars in the windows, heavy door. That's a holding cell if I ever saw one. How many? Can't tell from here. They withdrew to a sheltered position and refined their plan. They'd wait until nightfall, then split into two groups. Jake, Lily, and Carlos would approach from the west, targeting the holding cell. The Johnson twins and Henry would create a distraction on the east side, drawing the guards away. Once the shooting starts, we'll have maybe 5 minutes before they organize a defense, Jake said. We get the girls out, we get to the horses, we ride for Santa Fe. Marshal Daniels is waiting for us there with a warrant. And if things go wrong? Daniel Johnson asked. Then we improvise. Henry snorted. Great plan. You got a better one? Turn around and go home. But he was smiling when he said it. Night fell slowly over the desert. The temperature dropped, and the wind picked up, howling through the canyon like a living thing. Jake watched the compound through the gathering darkness, counting guards and memorizing their patrol patterns. Ready? He asked Lily. She checked her revolver one more time. Ready. They moved silently through the scrub, keeping low and using the terrain for cover. Carlos led the way, his experience as an outlaw showing in every careful step. Behind them, the Johnson twins and Henry split off, disappearing into the shadows. They reached the western fence without incident. Carlos produced a pair of wire cutters and went to work on the fence, while Jake and Lily kept watch. The guards were predictable, walking their routes with mechanical precision. Every 3 minutes, one would pass their position. The fence came apart with a series of quiet snaps. Carlos held the opening, and Jake slipped through, followed by Lily. They moved quickly across the open ground to the holding building, pressed themselves against its wall, and listened. Inside, they could hear voices.
Women's voices speaking in hushed, frightened tones.
Jake tried the door. Locked, of course. He nodded to Carlos, who drew his gun and aimed at the lock. Then they waited for the distraction. It came right on schedule. An explosion on the east side of the compound, followed by gunfire and shouting. The guard tower nearest them emptied as men ran toward the commotion.
Carlos fired.
The lock shattered. Jake kicked the door open and rushed inside. The holding cell was worse than he'd imagined. 12 women crowded into a space meant for half that many, all of them dirty and exhausted. They stared at the intruders with wide, fearful eyes. We're here to get you out, Lily said quickly. But we have to go now. The women didn't move. They'd learned not to trust promises of rescue. Lily stepped forward into the lamplight so they could see her face. I was one of you. 3 weeks ago I was in a cage just like this. But I got away, and now I'm here to help you do the same. Recognition dawned on several faces. One woman stood up, younger than the others, with red hair and defiant eyes. You're the one who jumped from the wagon. And if you want to live, you need to come with us right now. The women moved then, scrambling for the door. Jake counted them as they passed. 12, just like Father Miguel said. 12 lives that could still be saved. They got 8 women through the fence before someone spotted them. A guard shouted and bullets started flying. Jake returned fire, trying to protect the fleeing women while Lily helped them through the fence opening. Go! Jake shouted at Lily. Get them to the horses. Not without you. I'll be right behind you. Now go. More guards were coming, drawn by the gunfire. Jake emptied his revolver, dropped behind a water trough, and reloaded. Bullets punched holes in the wood around him, sending splinters flying. Carlos appeared at his side, firing methodically. Too many of them. Where are the twins? Still making noise on the east side. A bullet grazed Jake's arm, leaving a burning line across his skin. He gritted his teeth and kept shooting. The women were through the fence now, running toward safety. Just a few more seconds. Then he saw Martin Garrett emerge from the main building, shotgun in hand. The remaining Garrett brothers saw the fleeing women and understood immediately what was happening. His face twisted with rage. Kill them all! He screamed. Jake stood up from behind the trough and fired. Martin dove sideways, and the bullet missed by inches. Then Martin was up and running toward the fence, surprisingly fast for a big man. He's going after the women! Carlos shouted. His wounded shoulder screamed in protest, but he ignored it. He reached the fence just as Martin did, and they crashed together, both men fighting for control of the shotgun. They rolled in the dirt, struggling. Martin was bigger and stronger, but Jake was desperate. He got a knee into Martin's stomach, making the big man grunt and loosen his grip on the shotgun. Jake tore it away and swung it like a club, catching Martin across the jaw. Martin went down but wasn't out. He grabbed Jake's wounded shoulder and squeezed. Pain exploded through Jake's body, white-hot and overwhelming. Through the haze of agony, Jake saw Lily running back toward them. He tried to shout at her to stay away, but his voice wouldn't work. Martin was reaching for a knife on his belt. Then Lily was there, and she had the shotgun. She pressed it against Martin's head. Let him go. Martin looked up at her and smiled. You're that little runaway. Cole was right. Should have killed you when we had the chance. You'll never have another chance. You won't shoot. You don't have it in you. Lily's hands were steady. I've been waiting 3 weeks to prove you wrong. She pulled the trigger. The explosion was deafening. Martin Garrett fell away from Jake, dead before he hit the ground. Lily stood over his body, the smoking shotgun in her hands, her face hard and cold. Let's go, she said. Jake let her help him up. Together they ran through the fence opening, Carlos covering their retreat. Behind them, the compound was chaos. The remaining guards had either fled or were busy dealing with the distraction on the east side. They found the women gathered by the horses, terrified but alive. The Johnson twins and Henry were already there, Henry bleeding from a shoulder wound but grinning. That was the stupidest thing I've ever done, Henry said. We're not done yet, Jake replied. Mount up. We ride hard for Santa Fe. Don't stop for anything. They rode through the night, 12 freed women and 6 fighters, pushing the horses to their limits. Behind them, the canyon house burned. Carlos had set fires before they left, destroying evidence but also sending a message. The Garrett brothers were finished. Dawn found them on the outskirts of Santa Fe, exhausted but alive. Marshal Daniels met them at the edge of town with a dozen deputies. He listened to Lily's testimony, examined the freed women, and immediately organized a raid on what remained of the Garrett network. You did good work, he told Jake and Lily. Dangerous and reckless, but good. The last brother, Samuel, is still out there, Jake said. We'll find him. With testimony from these women and the evidence you've provided, I can put warrants out across 3 territories. He won't stay free long. The freed women were taken to a safe house run by the church. Father Miguel arrived the next day to help arrange new lives for them. Some would stay in Santa Fe, others would move to different cities where the Garrett network couldn't reach them. Lily found Jake sitting on the steps of the church, staring at nothing in particular. She sat beside him, and they watched the sun climb higher in the sky. What happens now, she asked. For you? A new life? A fresh start. I mean, what happens to us? There's no us, Lily. You deserve better than a drifter with more enemies than sense. You don't get to decide what I deserve. I'm just saying you have options now. Real options. You don't have to tie yourself to someone like me. What if I want to? Why would you want that? Lily took his hand, the same way she had at the mission. Because in the worst moment of my life, when I had nothing and no one, you gave me hope. You gave me your horse and your silence when I needed them most. You risked everything for a stranger, and then you helped me become strong enough to fight back. That's not something I'm going to forget.
I'm not a hero, Lily.
Maybe not, but you're my hero. That has to count for something. Jake felt something inside him shift, the same thing that had shifted when she'd first looked at him with those desperate eyes. He'd spent so long running from connections, from attachments, because everyone he loved seemed to die or leave. But Lily wasn't Emma. She wasn't fragile or helpless. She was a survivor who'd walked through hell and come out fighting. If I stay, he said slowly, I'm going to keep fighting. There are more people like the Garretts out there. More people who need help. Then I'll fight with you. It's dangerous work. So is doing nothing. He smiled. You keep saying that, because it's true. They sat together on those church steps, watching the city come to life around them. Somewhere out there, Samuel Garrett was running. Somewhere, other people were trapped and desperate, waiting for someone to give them hope. And somewhere inside Jake, a decision was made. All right, he said. We'll do this together. Partners? Partners. Lily smiled, and in that smile Jake saw the girl who'd pleaded with him not to let them take her again. But he also saw someone new. Someone strong and determined. Someone who'd turned her pain into purpose. She'd asked him for his horse and his silence, and he'd given her both. But in return, she'd given him something he hadn't expected. A reason to stop running. 2 months later, Jake and Lily stood outside a small office in Santa Fe. The sign above the door read Turner and Grant, Private Investigations and Recovery Services. You sure about this? Jake asked. I'm sure. It's not too late to change your mind. You could still go north. Start that new life Father Miguel talked about. This is my new life. They opened the door together and walked inside. The office was small but functional, with 2 desks, a filing cabinet, and a map of the territories on the wall. Marshall Daniels had helped them set it up, seeing the value in having unofficial operators who could go places the law couldn't. Their first case came that afternoon. A woman whose daughter had disappeared, probably taken by remnants of the Garrett network. The woman was crying, desperate, reminding Jake so much of that day in the canyon when he'd first seen Lily running. "We'll find her," Lily promised the woman, "and we'll bring her home." After the woman left, Jake looked at his partner. "You know we might not be able to save everyone. I know, but we have to try. Some fights we can't win. Then we'll lose fighting, which is better than never fighting at all." Jake nodded. She was right. They might not save everyone. They might not even survive. But for people who had no one else, who were trapped in the darkness hoping for any light at all, they would be there. They would give them hope, a horse, and silence when they needed it most. And they would keep fighting, partners in a war that would probably never end, because some things were worth risking everything for. Outside, the sun was setting over Santa Fe, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Lily stood at the window watching it, and Jake joined her. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Everything that needed to be said had already been said that day in the canyon when she'd whispered those words that changed everything. "Don't let them take me again." He hadn't, and he never would. That was a promise he intended to keep.